The power of dignity and faith in Malik's life is not something loud or dramatic. It's quiet, persistent, and almost invisible to those who rush through life without truly seeing. Malik, a young black boy, lives paralyzed from the waist down, not because of a disease, but because of violence that crept into his life long before he could choose the path he wanted to take. At just 10 years old, a stray bullet shattered his body and stole the easy, thoughtless movement that so many take for granted. But it did not take everything. What remained, and what grew stronger in the absence of mobility, was his sense of dignity, his inner conviction that he was still someone, still valuable, still capable of making a mark in the world. Living on the margins of society. Malik has experienced abandonment in layers. The system abandoned him. His community, though filled with love, lacked the resources to lift him, and strangers, passing him by every day, often looked right through him like he was part of the concrete. And yet, he does not beg. He does not shout at the world for mercy. Instead, he learns, he adapts, he watches, and through that observation, he builds a kind of wisdom that many people never achieve, even after decades of living. His dignity is not about pride in appearance or vanity. It's about holding on to the belief that he still has purpose. He positions himself in that alley, not to solicit pity, but because it's where the discarded things go. And Malik understands discarded things better than anyone. He watches rich people throw out food like it means nothing. But Malik sees value in scraps, not just food scraps, but the emotional leftovers that people hide behind their wealth and status. He recognizes that everyone, even those with power, is walking around with invisible wounds. With shame, they refuse to name. With disappointments, they cover in designer clothes. And while others look at trash and see worthlessness, Malik sees ingredients. His faith isn't grounded in religion, though he probably prays silently sometimes when no one's looking. It's deeper than doctrine. It's a belief in possibilities that logic might laugh at. He doesn't know when or how his life will change, but he believes it will. Even without legs that work, he believes he's still walking toward something. That belief shows up in how he educates himself. Using free Wi-Fi, salvaged technology, and broken books, Malik teaches himself coding, not for a job interview because no one would likely hire a kid like him, but because he sees knowledge as a form of power that no one can steal. Dignity for Malik means rejecting the identity that the world tried to force on him. He's not a victim, not a beggar, not a charity case. He's an innovator, an observer, a creator. He chooses to see himself through the lens of what he can still do, rather than what's been done to him. That sense of self is what gives him the courage to speak to Vanessa Ward, the billionaire woman, who walks out the back of the restaurant like the world owes her something. When he says to her, "I can cure you," it's not arrogance. It's the unshakable voice of someone who has watched people destroy themselves with pride and power, and who knows he holds something rare, truth without pretense. Faith is also what allows Malik to keep showing up. Every day, he wheels himself to that alley. He has no guarantee that anything will come of it, but he does it anyway. His life is built on small acts of resistance to despair, to invisibility, to bitterness. His faith is shown in his refusal to collapse under the weight of injustice. He's not waiting to be saved. He's preparing himself to rise, and he does it alone. That solitude, the quiet isolation he lives in, is both his burden and his sanctuary. It's where he hears his own thoughts, where he figures out what the world refuses to teach him. He believes that true healing is not just about restoring the body, but restoring the soul. That's why when Vanessa mocks him, he doesn't get angry. He just explains the real meaning of what he said. "I cure you with your leftovers" isn't about food, it's about emotional refuse. The things she can't admit to herself, the things she dumps without thinking. Malik has spent his whole life learning how to turn what others throw away into something meaningful. His dignity is expressed in that moment, not by standing tall. He physically can't, but by speaking truth to power without flinching. And his faith is expressed in the idea that even someone like her, someone who lives in penthouses and boards private jets, can be broken in ways no money can fix. He doesn't need her to believe in him for him to keep believing in himself. That's the essence of his faith. It's internal, independent, self-sustaining. Malik has endured enough to know that miracles don't fall from the sky. They are built, one painful inch at a time. And his miracle is unfolding through the app he created. The digital world he built from scratch, with fingers that have more purpose than most corporate empires. His work is not fueled by revenge or pride, but by purpose. He believes that people deserve a place to be real. To say, "I'm hurting," and not be judged. To confess loneliness, failure, be met with empathy instead of shame. That belief came from his own life. From lying in silence, from hearing gunshots at night, from learning how to breathe without crying. His app is not about profit, it's about presence. Even when Vanessa finally sees him not as a crippled boy in an alley, but as a visionary, he doesn't gloat. That's not his style. His dignity wouldn't allow it. What he offers her is the same thing he's offered himself, a way out of the cycle. a way to confront what's been hidden, a way to be whole, because dignity, when it's real, doesn't require dominance. It simply exists rooted in truth, grounded in faith, and unshaken by laughter or disbelief. Malik's power lies in this. He never gave away the one thing no one could take, his belief in who he is. And that belief, quiet and unshakable, is the very thing that begins to heal the world around him. The moment Vanessa Ward laughed at Malik, she didn't know she had just activated the most powerful force of change in both of their lives. Her laughter wasn't cruel in the way that people often imagine villains laugh. In stories it was casual, automatic, and hollow. But behind that laughter was something far deeper, disbelief layered over fear, pride masking emptiness, and a lifetime of thinking her success made her untouchable. She was not laughing at a joke. She was laughing at what she couldn't understand, a boy with nothing claiming he could cure her with leftovers. That small moment, barely 30 seconds, became the spark. Not because Malik was hurt by the laugh, but because it revealed exactly how closed off she had become to anything that didn't come with credentials, contracts, or a corporate logo. Vanessa, like many people in her position, had trained herself to ignore what didn't fit her worldview. In her world, power was measured in market value, and healing came in the form of money, spas, and maybe high-end therapy she could schedule between board meetings. So when Malik said something as wild as "I cure you with your leftovers," her brain rejected it before her heart could process it. But something unexpected happened after she laughed. She paused. It was just a flicker, a brief moment of hesitation in her eyes. Malik didn't flinch. He didn't argue. He didn't lower his head like someone caught being foolish. Instead, he calmly explained himself, and it was the calm, not the content, that got to her. It unnerved her. His tone carried no desperation, no need for her approval. That was the first crack in her armor. This is the point where everything began to shift, not in a sudden, dramatic explosion, but in a subtle, slow unraveling of Vanessa's tightly bound identity. For so long, she had built herself on performance and protection. She had survived a difficult childhood, clawed her way through elite institutions where no one expected her to win, and built an empire in a male-dominated space where one wrong move could cost her everything. So she wore her confidence like a suit of armor, always polished, always sharp. But armor is heavy, and over time, it begins to suffocate. Malik's words pierced through, not with force, but with precision. The idea that her leftovers could be the very thing someone else used to build something of value challenged the foundation of how she viewed herself and the world. She thought power meant control, and control meant discarding what wasn't useful. Malik, on the other hand, lived in a world where nothing was useless. Every discarded item was material for survival. Every look, every word, every scrap of food was a message to decode. He was fluent in human waste, not in a physical sense, but in an emotional and spiritual sense. And when he said he could cure her, he wasn't talking about medicine. He was talking about truth. Vanessa had spent years accumulating achievements, each one meant to fill a void she never spoke about. Her smile in photos was tight. Her interviews were polished. But Malik saw through it all in seconds. He saw that her real wounds weren't visible. That's what made his words so potent. He wasn't asking her for anything. He was offering something. Clarity, healing that didn't come from wealth, but from being seen without the filters of power. His presence reminded her of something she had buried, a younger version of herself who used to believe in unseen things, who used to cry when the world felt unfair, who used to look for magic in small places. That part of her hadn't disappeared. It had just been silenced by success. And Malik's.com's certainty, his ability to speak to her pain without naming it, directly stirred something in her that she thought was dead. But none of this happened out loud. On the surface, the moment passed quickly. She tossed another sharp comment. He offered a gentle response. She walked away. But that night she couldn't sleep. Her mind kept replaying the interaction, trying to file it away as nonsense, but failing. There was something haunting about his gaze, steady, grounded, and unafraid. People like him were supposed to be desperate or angry. He was neither. He had every reason to hate the world, yet he spoke like someone who had made peace with a ton more than that. Someone who had found purpose in what the world had rejected. That was the moment everything changed. Even if it took days for the surface to reflect it, she began to look him up, not out of guilt, but curiosity. She wanted to know who he was, why he mattered. And as she discovered the app he'd built, the raw, beautiful simplicity of a platform that let people anonymously share their pains, something inside her cracked further. For the first time in years, she read not a business pitch, but real words from real people, typed into the spaces Malik had created. And she wept, quietly, in a penthouse far above the streets. She wept for the first time in years. His app wasn't a product, it was a mirror. And in it, she saw herself powerful but tired, rich but deeply lonely. She saw people telling truths she had spent years hiding from, and she realized Malik hadn't been mocking her when he said he could cure her. He had been offering her something she didn't know she needed, a place to admit her own pain. Asterisk when she returned to find him, she didn't come with fanfare. She came with respect. She listened. She invested not just money, but attention. She asked him how he built it, what he believed in, and most of all, what he needed. It was the first real partnership of her life, one not built on transactions but transformation. And slowly, piece by piece, her worldview changed. She started speaking differently, not with less confidence, but with more compassion. She restructured parts of her company, adding wellness programs inspired by Malik's app. She started listening to her staff instead of just leading them. And most importantly, she started letting go of the need to be perfect. Asterisk, what began as mockery had become revelation. Her laugh, once dismissive, became the symbol of a turning point when a boy with no power held up a mirror to a woman who thought she had everything, and showed her the one thing she lacked, a connection to her own humanity. Asterisk,